In Cape Verde, goats outnumber people, yet 90% of all food is imported. An island surrounded by ocean. But fresh water is a treasure drop by drop. On sleeping volcanoes, locals gather to beat the Batuco drums, sharing bowls of hot Kachupa, like a ritual to keep life burning. You'll find kids laughing as they float in a salty crater, while old fishermen stare at the horizon, trusting the winds to bring them another good catch. This dry, forgotten archipelago gave the world Cesaria Evora, the barefoot diva, whose voice turned rocks, salt, and wind into songs we still whisper today. So how does a place this harsh become an island of freedom, music, and people who refuse to sink Cape Verde, 10 volcanic islands drifting in the Atlantic? Closer to Africa than most maps show. Once uninhabited, then seized by Portuguese explorers who turned these rocks into stepping stones for empire and trade. Out here, storms and droughts shaped people to adapt or leave. That's why more Cape Verdeans live abroad than at home. Yet every islander keeps the same heartbeat, Batuco drums, Creole whispers, Kachupa simmering for anyone who knocks. They speak Portuguese in schools, but life happens in Creole. They dance on dry earth, fish the wild Atlantic, and sing songs salty as the ocean wind. This is not the paradise you find on postcards. It's rough, real, and alive in ways you don't expect. But what no one tells you is how this tiny nation's struggle turned into a spirit that won't drown. In Cape Verde, adventure means swimming inside a volcano and floating where the earth cracked open. The Pedra de Lume crater on Sal Island is a giant salt pan filled with warm, mineral-rich water. Locals say it's like the Dead Sea, but saltier. Step in and you'll float without trying, staring up at a sky as blue as the Atlantic that hugs every shore. Hikers climb Santo Antó's jagged ridges, a vertical playground of hidden valleys and misty forests. Every trail promises sweat, sore legs, and views so surreal you forget you're on a dry, dusty archipelago. The coastlines, meanwhile, are playgrounds for windsurfers and kitesurfers who chase the steady trade winds. Beneath the waves, divers slip into an underwater world alive with turtles, reef fish, and old shipwrecks. These raw landscapes are Cape Verde's other currency traded for tourists who come to float, hike, dive, and taste freedom where Africa meets the sea. But beyond salt water and hiking trails, this place keeps a deeper lesson, one hidden in its past. Its music and the stubborn will to survive. So what truth does Cape Verde teach us about staying afloat when the world tries to sink you? In Cape Verde, food is never just food. It's proof you belong. Eat alone here, and people think you're rude. Every island kitchen knows how to make Kachupa a thick, slow-cooked stew of corn, beans, sweet potato, and scraps of fish or pork when times are good. Families simmer it for hours, letting neighbors and strangers drop in with an empty bowl because sharing feeds more than stomachs. Then there's Grogue sugarcane rum so strong it can make your eyes water. Locals drink it neat or mix it into cocktails for long nights of drumming and dancing. Goats outnumber people here for a reason. Their milk, meat, and cheese keep island fridges from going empty when the soil dries up. But even a single goat is never just yours. You'll see whole villages dividing meat for weddings, wakes, or just another Saturday. This unspoken rule that no one eats alone is Cape Verde's soft rebellion against hunger and isolation. But once the pot is empty and the cups are dry, what makes these scattered islands worth crossing oceans to see? Maybe it's what hides behind the beaches and salt flats. If Cape Verde has a heartbeat, it's Batuco, a drum circle of call and response, born from hardship and hope. Women gather in dusty yards, bare feet stamping dry earth, while hands slap rhythms onto old barrels. Lyrics weave gossip, laughter, secrets, and struggle into songs that feel ancient yet alive. This beat gave the world Cesaria Evora, the barefoot diva who sang mornas and coladeras so soft they could break your heart. Her voice drifted from smoky island bars to sold-out European theaters. But she never wore shoes on stage, a quiet reminder of where she came from. Cape Verde's music is its memory stories kept alive in Creole, the language they whisper at home but rarely write down. Batuco isn't just performance, it's resistance, celebration, and a reason to gather when the harvest fails or the boats come back empty. In these songs, you hear hunger turned into hope, salt air turned into poetry. But even with drums beating and songs floating on the wind, how does a nation this small still sit together around one big table? Maybe it's what they eat and how they share it. More Cape Verdeans live abroad than on their own islands, scattered like seeds by drought and hunger. From the mid-20th century, waves of dry years and failed crops pushed families onto fishing boats and plains. Today, you'll find Cape Verdean communities in Portugal, the Netherlands, the US, even Brazil, each carrying a piece of these wind-swept rocks in their music and food. Yet, no matter how far they go, the islands pull them back. Children born in Boston or Rotterdam learn Creole lullabies and Batuco rhythms long before they see a Cape Verde sunset. Back home, old fishermen still sail the same waters their grandfathers crossed in dugout canoes. The ocean is both pantry and promise, feeding families when the land refuses, carrying dreams when storms grow too strong. This restless bond with the sea keeps Cape Verde alive and scattered. But what keeps them together is not just the ocean. It's a beat, a dance, a song you'll hear in dusty streets and city bars alike. So how does music bind an entire people drifting in the wind? Cape Verde's beauty is harsh, carved by volcanoes, battered by Atlantic winds, always thirsty for rain. 9 of the 10 islands are inhabited, but only a fraction of their rocky soil can grow food. Some peaks, like Pico do Fogo, rise almost 3,000 meters above the sea, an ancient crater that last erupted in 2014, reminding everyone who really rules here. Santo Antone, a vertical paradise of canyons and valleys, dares hikers to test their limits. Hike too deep, and you find waterfalls hidden among cliffs, miracles where green fights the dry. The coasts are playgrounds for windsurfers and divers chasing clear water and steady gusts, but just beyond those turquoise waves, drought has driven families to pack up and scatter across Europe and America, searching for what their islands can't grow. This is the contradiction of Cape Verde, a paradise of wind and waves that cannot feed its own people. But under this brutal sun, people found ways to survive, and the ocean became more than just water. So how did the sea become their lifeline and their escape? Once a barren rock in the Atlantic Cape Verde, became a crossroads of slaves, pirates, and whispers of freedom in the 15th century. Portuguese sailors claimed these empty islands. They built the first European outpost in the tropics at Ribeira Grande, a fortress for the slave trade that fed empires far away. Ships came loaded with chained souls and left heavy with gold, salt, and coal. Generations were torn from Africa, reshaped on these volcanic stones before crossing the ocean forever. But history turned. In 1956, a quiet resistance grew led by Amilcar Cabral and his dream of freedom for both Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. After centuries of storms and stolen bodies, the islands broke their chains in 1975, free at last, but scarred by drought and poverty. Today, Cape Verdeans carry this past like salt in the air, invisible but clinging to skin, song, and story. But freedom isn't enough to fill empty stomachs. So how do they feed themselves when the land refuses to give? Cape Verde is more than salt flats, volcano hikes, or windswept beaches. It's proof that freedom isn't just about borders, it's about how you live when the land gives you nothing for free. Here, droughts still come and go. The ocean still tests fishermen who sail out with prayers instead of promises. The soil stays thin. The rain stays rare, but the people stay together. They keep drumming Batuco beats into dry earth, passing bowls of Kachupa from hand to hand. They pour strong Grogue for strangers and laugh barefoot under the same stars Cesaria Evora once sang to. A single goat can feed a whole village. A single song can carry a people scattered by storms and centuries. Maybe that's Cape Verde's real gift. A lesson on how to float when the world tries to drown you, how to hold each other up when nature says no. In the end, these islands remind us that paradise isn't the sand or the salt, it's the open door, the extra bowl, the heartbeat of drums calling neighbors close. So if you ever stand on a Cape Verde cliff, wind in your hair and salt on your lips, listen. You'll hear the spirit that's kept these islands alive. One song, one meal, one wave at a time. Would you share your last bowl of Kachupa if it meant someone else wouldn't go hungry? Tell us in the comments, yes, I would share, if you believe no one should eat alone. And if Cape Verde's spirit moved you, wait until you see what life is like in Burundi, where even owning a bicycle is a dream for many. Click here to watch This is Life in Burundi, the poorest country in the world, where bicycle is luxury, and keep exploring how people survive, dream, and share in places the world forgets. Welcome to the Global Trail, where we blaze paths across our world.